Awesome. How are you, Ty? Hope you're doing well. Welcome,
I'm
everyone.
doing great, D.
Awesome. I'm glad to see you in another Sunday. So welcome everyone to another episode of Stars and Suits with your host, myself, the Woo of Wall Street and Ty in the Cards. Today we have a very awesome episode where we're gonna do what we always do, which is we're gonna look at some really interesting cards and some interesting aspects that are going to be happening this week that may give us an insight into what we can see in the upcoming months and weeks. So let's see what we got in store for the week. How's it going, Ty? How's your week?
This week went well. I mean, it was awesome. We had that we had that sweet 10 of diamonds on Friday. I hope everyone capitalized on that morning move. That was awesome. If you're in Europe, Europe and Asia, you guys got the bulk of it. So that was awesome to see. Like we talked about, it's like that's that blessed card, that double Jupiter card. So super not super surprised to see a super bullish move, but also that volatility kicking back into where it's like I think we retraced what most of it. Like yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely we're still whips on, that's for sure.
Yeah, we did talk about last week about how some of these moves were not going to be permanent, but that it was important to still catch that wave because once Jupiter went direct, we were going to see a small retrace, but then we will see Jupiter expanding things. And to remember that Jupiter doesn't just expand positive energy, it expands anything it touches. And so these moves can be just as volatile to the upside as they can be to the downside. So emphasizing the same energy, both ways. And I think we talked about how, it can retrace the extent of the move to the upside just right back into where the move started. So those are kinds of things to watch for when we have events like a major hitter like Jupiter coming direct. So yeah, that was kind of exciting to see. Just
Well, big
come to
pivot for
fruition.
us, you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah,
big pivot for us. And that's super powerful fuel, and powerful wind in our sails. It's like for Jupiter to flip. So yeah, looking forward to, the weeks ahead.
yeah, and the rest of the month is gonna be tricky, especially to navigate the last week of the month. But for now, I think, people are gonna be able to enjoy more positive reaction to the market and to price. And that's gonna be exciting because a lot of people I feel like were feeling kind of stressed out about being in this range for this long, and that always gets people a little bit worried and upset. And we had so much fun, everyone talking about going to 52-32 price action. But I feel like we are in a month of change, and I think we talked about that as well last time when we talked about Mercury being retrograde and how when retrograde occurs, it tends to be a pivot, right? So it's a transitional month, and I think the energy is going to be much more positive moving forward in the next few months. We still have some contending, price action and transits, strong transits to deal with. A couple of them in April and in May. But overall, we should see some positive transitions into at least like, for this break and this downside that we've been having since the start of the year, sort of like end of last year. So that's something to capitalize on. And so when you have things like this happening, it's important to point that out because while everyone's looking to the downside, fearing the worst, they're missing the moves to the upside. And until we get a continuation to the downside and until we get the rest of the cycle, why not, look to where the next move is rather than what can happen, 2 or 3 months from now.
That's definitely true. And it's like you were saying, it's like the game people getting wore out by this chop and this range, you know what I mean? And when we look at the cards, the the card for March is actually the Four of Clubs. And so the Four of Clubs is kind of like the foundation builder. And so, chop, we're building a level, we're building the foundation here. But
Mhm.
also, it's like that can be on the negative side, can be like kind of like a card of like stagnation. And so it's like, I think we're seeing both sides of that, where it's like we're forming like kind of this bottom, this pivot area, but also it's like this stagnation is just wearing people out. And you know what I mean? It's like there's multiple ways the market makers can get you. It's a
Yeah.
price level, and they can also get you with time. That's for sure.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But well, that's what we're here though, right? We're here to be able to give people an additional edge where it's a lot easier. People always compliment me on how cool-headed I can be, especially when we have these really crazy volatile days and I post and I calm people down like, hey guys, like it's not that bad, or if you missed a move, do not FOMO or whatever. But it's because when you can see the future, you could be a lot calmer about it. You know where the opportunities lie and you know where to get in and where to get out and for how long. And that really does help the psychology, right? So that's kind of what we do here with the suits and with the stars. And so, speaking of that, I don't know if you want to get right into it and start with what you have for us today.
Yeah, yeah, I would love to. Yeah, and the way I like to put it is it's like driving at night with you would want to have your headlights on, right? It's like that's what these systems are. It's like having your headlights on. So yeah, nothing then it doesn't surprise you as much. You might not see every single thing, but you'll definitely have a better idea of what's coming. So
For
yeah,
sure.
I'll
Clarity.
yeah,
I'll take clarity
yeah.
however you can get it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Especially in today's times. That's
Yes.
definitely for sure.
Yes, especially
Um
with all the chaos and commotion with war and uncertainty. Wherever you can get peace of mind and clarity, that's usually where I like to put my focus and my time.
Yeah, definitely. And it can, I mean, especially with the time periods, is because then it can just give you something also it's like to look forward to. You're going through like a tough time in your life, you're going through a Saturn period or something like that. Well, next is the Uranus period, and something unexpected could totally change the trajectory of your life. And so it's like it gives you something to look forward to as well, on top of the predictive aspect. But that being said, I mean, yeah, let's jump right into the cards here. So if you guys don't know about the cards, what the cards are is the playing card deck is actually an ancient calendar, and it's actually perfectly tied to the calendar. Um, there's 52 weeks in the year, 52 cards in the deck. We add up all the cards in the deck. It makes 364. Add the Joker, it's 365. And there's many, many, many other correlations with the calendar, but we'll start there. And as you can see here, because it's perfectly tied to the calendar, each day has a particular like birth card. And so determined by your month and day of your birthday. And your birth card is essentially kind of like your sun sign in astrology. It's the major player in your chart, but it's not everything. And that's something that we're going to get into today. Like, what are these extra cards that are also tied to your birth card? Um, but yeah, so like your birth card, this is going to be like how you move through life, essentially. This is going to determine your life path in the chart that I'm going to show you guys on the next slide. It's going to determine your life path, the planetary influences of like your overall like outward appearance, and again, it's like your actions, your outer world, your how yeah you move through life essentially. So if you look at the chart here, you can find your birthday, and you can find your birth card. And your birth card is essentially it ties three different aspects. First, there's the numerology of the card. So King is 13, uh, queen is 12, jack is 11, and then the rest are the actual pip counts. And then the suit itself plays a role on the card. So the suit adds another little flavor to that numerology on that card. So for example, like let's say you are a, I don't know, let's pick one. You are the nine. Let's not do the nine of spades. Let's not do that one. Let's do three diamonds. Let's say you're a three diamonds. So
Wait,
three is like, what's that?
yeah, yeah, I couldn't see your mouse. Okay, so you're pointing. All right, I see where you're pointing. Okay, cool. I'm following along. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes.
Okay, cool.
Listen, I'm taking this wicked seriously because I'm telling you, like, I love this system. I love what you do, and I usually don't. I don't know like I don't know about all there is to know about it. I do know very little, very basic stuff. But every time you do these streams, I learn something new. So I'm always taking little notes here and there, which I start to use like in my forecast. Like when I notice something and I can match it to the cards, I'm like, oh, there's confluence, right? And so I just think people should probably do the same. Like make sure they're taking notes and stuff because this can really help them out through the week. And they can always
Absolutely.
tag you and ask you questions like, in your feed and your account. So I just think that that's like kind of cool, that you go through all of the background of these cards and you give like the additional information. You don't just give them the cards, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm glad that I can teach you something new every time. That's awesome. And like that's the thing. This subject is it's not as widely known, I would say, as others. So a lot of the information is really spread out. So like I I have a lot of different resources in which I like kind of pull a lot of these things together
Hmm.
to then formulate. I would say it's kind of like my own flavor of the system because there are like kind of like these different flavors of the system and they're all necessarily the same. Like the cards mean the same thing and the spread's the same and things like the fundamentals are all the same. There's just like some some stylistic differences between these that because I've like basically read everything, it's like I can kind of take all of that information, kind of formulate my own system. But yeah, like you said, it's just like you're adding confluence. Like the way I look at it is like this is like another indicator. You know what I mean? And it's like if it doesn't mean that the stars are going to be gospel or the cards are going to be gospel or things like that, but when these things line up, like you have a pretty good confluence onto what's going to happen. Like for example, like if you have a level you marked out and then it just so happens to line up with the 200 EMA or something like that, it's like okay, well now I have like two pieces of confluence here. And so yeah, hopefully that's what we're doing here with the cards. It's like different ways that we can tie these into the astrology and then just add confluences to what we're looking at.
Yeah, awesome. Well, sorry to cut you off. I just had to comment on that. But yeah,
No, you're good.
you were on the three of diamonds there.
Yeah, yeah. And my son had to run in too. He had to see what I was doing. He's like, "What
Oh,
are you
okay.
doing? I thought you didn't have to work today." I was like, "Oh no, I'm
Oh
just."
no. He's like, D cutting down my dad time. What's going on here?
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, been romping in the snow all day. But yeah, as you can see here with the three of diamonds, there's actually a bunch of them. You know what I mean? It kind of moves diagonally through this chart, and there's actually a lot of diamonds. There's the most diamonds in clubs, and then hearts and spades are the rarer suits. But anyway, so the diamonds represent values. So values, resources, money, and we have the three here, which three is like exploration through the mind. This is creativity and like curiosity. And so when you combine these two, you have the three of diamonds, and that's like kind of exploration through values. This makes a for like a really good businessman. If this is like your birth card, like a salesman in particular, because you're very social. You're a three. You like talking with people. You're very bubbly. You have a lot of connections, and so you combine that energy with the values and the finance and the money of the diamond, and yeah, you get a very good like business professional, especially when it comes to like things that are social, like yeah, a project manager, like a salesman, things like that. So with all of these cards, yeah, we can combine basically the suit, the numerology, and then we take the planetary influence. And where does the planetary influence come from? Well, it comes from this giant spread called the grand solar spread or the grand solar array. And on the left side here is what's called the spirit spread. And if you guys have been watching, you probably have not seen this one yet. This is something new. I haven't showed this to you guys yet, but this is basically the life spread, which is here on the right side, which has a very like what seems to be random order, but it's a mathematical pattern. Um, and it's actually derived from this spread. And as you can see here, we start here with the ace and we move in perfect order. So that's why this is called the spirit spread. And your planetary influences for your card are both going to be reflected in your inner world, in your spirit card, and your outer world, which is the life spread or the mundane spread or the earthly spread. There's a bunch of different names for these, but essentially that's what it is. So if we take our same our same subject here, we have the three of diamonds, we have the Mercury and Uranus position. But in the spirit spread, where does he sit? He sits in the Mercury Saturn position. So when we talked about the three of diamonds, well, unexpected, bubbly, curious, things that are definitely Uranus qualities, but also like good at dealing with people and dealing with resources in like the mundane world. Well,
So,
there's that Saturn influence as well.
so you know what's interesting about what you said about the placement, the current placement of the three of diamonds, sort of combining the energy of Mercury, Uranus, and Saturn. And so in the stars right now, we have, Saturn being a key player for BTC because Saturn transiting Saturn, conjuncting BTC's natal moon, is peaking on the 18th, 19th of this month, right around the same time when the new moon occurs. And I'll bring up what that means in a little while, but it's just interesting to see how that's a highlight of the week. And, it's including Saturn there. And then we have another one coming up that even though it's not starting until the 25th, its foundations are going to be playing towards the end of this week into the beginning of next week. And that's a Saturn, I'm sorry, I'm transiting Uranus, trining the current trining BTC's natal Jupiter. And now with Jupiter being direct, that's going to be very impactful for next week. So it's kind of interesting to see that you have those things going on, especially with, obviously Mercury being the ruler of markets and trades. So um, just just bringing up some of the what I see, how it's aligning with the Astros. Kind of neat to always see the additional layer over that.
Yeah, and that's really fascinating as well because of how they all tie together, but then also it's like you have this double Mercury influence. So it's like it's so quick, this energy. You know what I mean? And it's almost like light in a way where you have that lightning bolt, but then
Yeah.
like light, swift energy, but grounded. And
Mhm.
so it's like and so when you apply that to the markets, it's a like, wow, that's like a perfect storm. you know
Yeah. And
and thankfully we're going to be playing that three of diamonds this week, but we'll get to that later.
well, speaking of the perfect storm, when you have Mercury being retrograde, being that is the ruler of markets and trade, um, being retrograde, it almost serves as a container with a lid, right? And it just brewing everything underneath the surface. And once that lid comes undone on the 20th, whatever energy was sort of playing key roles in that brewing energy under that lid is going to manifest and show itself fully. once the 20th kicks in, which is why having that Uranus trining Jupiter coming, starting around the 25th of next week, right around the time when also we have a quarter moon that will serve as an additional trigger to this energy. It's kind of like fireworks.
Yeah, definitely gonna be popping off. That's all I'm just seeing. Yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
yeah, that boiling over analogy is like perfect. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's like it serves like a container, and I can't wait to pull that lid off on the 20th.
We all can't wait. Cool. So yeah, I guess yeah, between these spreads, so yeah, we talked about basically your position and your planetary position of where that card may be. But there's also like different aspects that we can look at as well. I've said it before. It's like the whole story is right here in this spread, and it truly is, especially when you tie in the spiritual spread as well. So, for an example of like the planetary positions, I use the Queen of Hearts, and we'll look at her on the next slide. But the Queen of Hearts, she sits down here in double Neptune. She's the only card that sits in double Neptune. Well, this like coordinate on the grid has significance as well, not just and tied to the Queen of Hearts, not just where the Queen of Hearts sits over here, not just up there in Venus and Saturn, also very interesting when you think about the lovely Queen of Hearts. Um, but who sits in her spot? Oh, it's the 10 of diamonds. And wait a minute, over here, who is then sitting in her spot over here? Well, it's the 9 of clubs. As you can see, she sits here. Who's sitting here? So that makes these two cards, the 9 of clubs and the 10 of spades, directly connected to the Queen of Hearts. So let's take a look. So we got the Queen of Hearts, and she has what's called a spirit card. The spirit card is the one that sits over here, and the soul card is the one that's sitting in her spot, essentially. Now these two cards are this is a great if anyone has had any questions about like, well, how do I know that like the Jack of Hearts is like self-sacrificing, or like how do I know that like the 10 of clubs is like the mastermind and like the mental leader? Like, where do they get these attributes? Well, they get them from the suits and the numerology and the planetary position. But these cards that are here also give them their attributes because they're tied in to this card, just like, which I think we'll talk about maybe next time, just like all the cards that are then next to this card. So, for example, if you're the King of Diamonds, your spread goes this way. If you can see my mouse, it goes this way. And you actually have 13 cards next to you that all play into who you are as the King of Diamonds. But for today, we're just going to talk about the Spirit and Soul card, the ones that sit in the coordinate positions.
Now, what's the
So
difference between a spirit card and a soul card? Because a lot of people use these words interchangeably, right?
I'm glad you asked, Dee.
By the way, that wasn't rehearsed. That's
Yeah,
straight up
yeah,
like
yeah.
me trying to take some notes right now.
No, it definitely it's a very common question. That's something I definitely want to get into. So it's like, yeah, we're kind of when we talk about a spirit and a soul, and we're talking about that, we kind of yeah, we use those terms kind of like interchangeably, and they kind of, for lack of understanding, we think that it's essentially the same thing. But if we think about like how we use these words, I think it helps like us understand them. For example, like if someone's showing like a lot of spirit, you know what I mean? It's like that's an outward energy. That's like they are riled up. There's team spirit. They have a lot of like energy behind them. They're driven. But when someone's showing a lot of soul, that's very internal. It's very receptive. And so that's kind of how I laid it out here is like your spirit card is kind of like your action, your male or your sun type energy. It's your outward energy. and your
Mhm.
soul is more like your receptive female moon energy, and it's more inward and yeah, like receptive and basically just like more intuitive, and it's
Yeah.
something that you will feel deeper in your inner world. Again, these are both your inner world, but it's like but they manifest in different ways.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of like your MC and your IC, kind of like, the energy you project to the world, and kind of like your inner core, your inner self, kind of like the person you are behind closed doors. That's kind of interesting. I love that the difference there. And what exactly are the planets underneath each card? Is that their placement on the spread?
Yep, that's their placement on the life spread. So that's just going to give them those extra influences. So we think about how, the Queen of Hearts is the double Neptune card. Well, it's like inside her, she has this Mercury Jupiter card and this Venus Saturn card. So you're layering these different energies on top of each other, kind of like you do in a natal chart when you start just like pulling in all the different planetary influences and aspects and things like that. So this is how we do it in cardology: is you bring in all these extra cards essentially.
I see.
But but your spirit card is like it's kind of like your guiding force. Like that's going to be like your drive. And the card essentially how it manifests in people would be like the negative aspects are given to you, and then the positive ones kind of have to be earned, just like spirit. If you think about it, if you think about it like, oh, okay, I guess if we use like team spirit, like for a sports team or something, okay, you have to cultivate the like becoming the fan of that team. But it's really really easy to be pessimistic about that team, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
but it's like it actually takes some work to cultivate the positive side. And so when we apply that to the Queen of Hearts here, the Ten of Spades is like a card of like accomplishment and success, especially in like career. And often like career is like top priority. This is like a visionary card with a ton of drive and like dedication to always like advancing. And so
Interesting.
that adds this like drive and tenacity to the lovely Queen of Hearts. And oh, I didn't even talk about the Queen of Hearts. If you don't know, Queen of Hearts is like the mother of compassion. When she shows up in people's spreads, oftentimes it can mean pregnancy for a woman, or like for a man, it can mean a time of like a new love interest or intimacy, things like that. I mean, this is the fairy tale, Queen of Hearts. She wants everyone to be lovey and happy, and she's fluffy, and that's who she is. Um, she's very, inviting and warm, but she's receptive and optimistic. Yeah, very, very positive card. But with all that positivity, she kind of has a negative side too, where it's like she could be really impressionable because she always wants to see the good side of things, so she can be super impressionable and she can overindulge. And so like yeah, just like not really having a grasp on her own indulgences basically
Now, in
is the
tarot, she's
negative side.
associated with the Queen of Cups. Am I right?
That's right.
Now, when you take what you've learned from this card and you were to apply it to a particular day in the market, what would you see?
When I see a Queen of Hearts, I think that, like um, I mean, emotionally driven. This is a heart court card. So like hugely emotionally driven day and
Right.
receptive because it's a queen. So like this would be a day that I'd be looking for like super news driven day for sure. Anytime we encounter heart cards, I feel like it's super news driven because that's what is being played with. That's the puppet strings that are being pulled. It's emotions. And
Yeah.
so especially with the queen, um, and like I said, she can overindulge. So like when I think of overindulgences in in the markets, it's kind of like what we saw on Friday. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
10 of
Exactly.
diamonds is yeah, 10 of
Yeah.
diamonds is that overindulgence as well, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It can
It's the overflowing of the cup, almost like a very, like you said, emotional driven, news driven, like people reactive, on emotions versus like being logical about what they're doing. So it could see I could see it being very both positive and negative, right? The same way that, it can be reactive on one side, then when it realizes kind of like, oh my God, I'm I'm overdoing it, right? And then it just kind of like retreat.
Yep. And that's also another like characteristic of the Queen of Hearts as well, is she can be flighty because it's like she's not rooted in foundation like the Queen of Spades or the Queen of Clubs or the
Correct.
Queen of Diamonds even. Honestly, like
Right.
any of the other queens, she's very unique because she's like, yeah, she's the embodiment of that emotional side of all of us, you know, and
Yeah.
being a 12 as well, it's like, you know, she's she's not like
Yeah.
super grounded. Yeah.
And it's a water element, correct?
So the elements kind of get flopped around. You know, it is, yes, in tarot it is a water element. I have heard many different things. It's usually just clubs and hearts kind of flip flop between who's fire and who's water. But
Mhm.
but yes, but essentially it's like we tie in the rest of the characteristics of the card, it's like, well, it can kind of apply to a little bit of both in a way.
Yeah, I could see that. And you're right, depending on the methodology and depending on the theory of the book that might be talking about the cars themselves. I have seen them both the same way that with the clubs, sometimes they flip it from earth to fire, um, and things like that, but that's always really interesting. As long as you have your system and you're following your system, um you know I think it's either or, it's fine.
Totally. And I mean, thankfully, the cards give you so much information that you don't really have to like lock in on like the element, like because there's so many like other pieces of data that you can pull from the card and the position and the spread and all this stuff where it's like you can kind of like formulate whatever that influence of the element is. You know what I mean? You can
Hmm.
kind of triangulate yourself back to it.
Yeah, and I want to
But
remind everyone, of course, that if they have questions about what we're sharing, or there's something specific they want to see more of, they can always comment below the stream, or they can comment on your feed, or they can comment on Twitter. I'm sorry, YouTube, and we'll see the comments and we'll get back to them.
yeah, absolutely. Anybody has any questions, yeah, more than happy to help guide you. But like you said with the water too, it's like it kind of comes with the water element with the clubs here because the nine of clubs is a teacher. And so that's that positive aspect that's given to the queen here is that teaching and universal guidance of the queen, which is like prevalent in most of the queens, but this is where the Queen of Hearts gets that attribute from. And you know, on the negative side, it sits dormant here on a soul card unless it's basically triggered. But the negative side of the nine is lying or being super negative like victim mentality. And so that's why it's so important for a Queen of Hearts to just stay positive, stay your bubbly butterfly self. Like that's how a Queen of Hearts
That's a
is
good
supposed to
one.
move through life.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
funny you say that because it's kind of like it's kind of like it's superpower, right? Like you have to um the positive of the cards tend to be their superpower. So whenever they see themselves going into the affliction, mode, like the victimhood or the negative side of the card, tapping into the positive aspect of the card is how you turn things around. And this applies to all cards, honestly. The same with astrology. Like people think that for some reason, like they'll they'll contact me for a reading, right? Whether it's personal or financial reading, and then sometimes they're scared of like what I could see in the reading, and I say, the cards or the transits, the aspects, they're there to show you a roadmap. They're there to educate you and give you an understanding of yourself, of your pitfalls, of your strengths, and it's up to you how you use those tools. It's a blueprint of who you are and how you were constructed, but um, it doesn't have to fade you, right? It doesn't have to lock you in a specific fate. And you can use it for your betterment or for your affliction. It depends on what kind of person you are. But the beauty of it is also gives you the remedies of how to correct things and how to better things. Specifically, I just recently saw a tweet from Olga Morales that showed the decan and the degrees match with the planetary alignments, and I'm sorry, the planet placement on the charts. And I just found that really fascinating because I think it talks a little bit about how there's different places around the wheel that leads you to different fated events and fated paths. But the wheel itself, it's basically a roadmap to navigate those placements and to navigate those fated events and to navigate how you react to them. Because we do have free will on how we move about the cards and how we move about that spread of life that you usually shows us. It's not like you have some control over the pinball machine, right? So it depends on how you want to play the game, literally and figuratively.
Absolutely. And that's a great way of putting it. It's just like, yes, it's just like it depends on how you play the game. And I love the card analogies as well. But, something else that I've always been pondering as you dive into this system is like, yeah, you kind of get that question of like free will versus fate, but it's like these cards always provide a choice. There's always a positive and a negative and a balanced expression for all of these cards. And what's beautiful about this system too is like because we have all these cards that are connected to us, we have 13 cards to the left of us, and we have all these cards that are connected to us in the spirit spread as well, and we have all these people that we're connected to in this chart. But it's like we all need each other. Like you need every card in the deck to play the game. Like you encounter every one of these cards at least once. Like if you live to 91, you will encounter every one of these cards on a yearly spread at least once. On smaller spreads, you're encountering these cards all the time. But it's like, yeah, we need each other, and like we balance each other out. It's a perfectly designed system, and this is just one way to delineate it and to see where you fall in on this giant clock is the way I put it.
Exactly. Beautifully said. Well, let's let's
Yeah,
go
let's jump into
into
Astro.
yeah, let's go and see what the stars are holding for us this week in a general sense, more of a at a glance. And so this week I would like to title it The Awakening because in the past couple of weeks we had, the great reset of you know, like I would like to call it the Great Reset when Saturn conjunct Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. And then we had, of course, the blood moon event, which, gave us that total eclipse in Virgo, sort of setting off this energy. And then the week after that, we had a lot more of, with Jupiter coming direct. And now this week, all that energy kind of goes through the threshold of the astrological new year. So it's a celebratory time. And just when exactly that happens, you have Mercury going direct at 3:33 p.m. Eastern daylight savings time. And so you can't make that stuff up, like 3:33, right? And it all happens in Pisces when, you have you're going, as I said from the very beginning, you have when Saturn was conjuncting Neptune, you have now this illusion and dreams and aspirations that now become reality. Things you've been waiting for, things you've been working through. And Mercury ushers that into the next stage or the next kind of cycle for us to manifest, right? And so the retrograde ends and the sun, crosses us through the threshold, so to speak. The astrological new year begins and we get like that green light that, we've been waiting for, right? Like it's like the internal becomes external, just like you were talking about the soul card versus the spirit card, one being the action and the other one being the reaction. If you want to see it that way. And what has been paused starts to move. That great reset that began, on February 20th, as Aries, at that 0 degrees of Aries, now receives the sun's blessing, so to speak. And that's why I like to title this week The Awakening. And so what else we got going on? So the week at a glance, I would say that you know one thing I like to look at is the events. There's three New Years that happen sort of back to back. You have the Gregorian New Year, which we see, on the 1st of January. We have the lunar New Year, which happened in February, and now we have the astrological New Year. And believe it or not, these calendars are intertwined a lot more than what we understand even, because even with all the knowledge that we may have, we still only scratching the surface. There's so much information that's been hidden from us. But when you look at the events that occur, not just on in the markets, but just in the, geopolitical arena and in the world in general, in our own personal lives, there's a common thread that goes, through them. And so I encourage people to always go back and look at those specific dates and connect the dots of what they can be now ushering into in the upcoming days. And, and in 2026, this moment, carries like an extraordinary weight, as we have the sun crossing and, just as, Saturn conjunct Neptune just 1 month ago. Another thing that's like super significant, is that, the degrees in which this is happening and the timing of it, all those numbers tying back to numerology they're not coincidental, right? There's a math that runs this code and it's all connected. So let's see what else we got. And of course, like I mentioned, Mercury stationing direct with, the planet of communication and news. I mean, even with the news that we have recently seen in the past month or so that led to a lot of confusion, chaos, misunderstandings, potentially things that we have no idea how they even developed, just came suddenly. Should start to see some clarity unfolding, corrections, and things that came during those days may start to dissipate as well. So that's always good news because we did had a lot of negative news coming into, the world, and in the arena, of the markets during those days. There's a lot of speculation going on about, the spending and how that's all going to play out, things related to, you know, like with the oil and the inflation, gas prices. I mean, there's so much going on that people are so unaware of. And I think that with, this new moon in Pisces, that's still going to still carry through, but and you got to give also Mercury retrograde some time because we are still going to be in shadow. And so until the shadow clears out, that's when we really will start to see some of the themes change. But at least it's on its way. Right? It's sort of like, well,
Finally.
yeah, right. It's like some breathing, to everything that's going on. It's kind of like giving that sort of final dream put to rest, right? So that's happening with the new moon on the 28 degrees in Pisces. It's the last lunation of what I like to call the old cycle, right? Where the moment is to release and surrender all of those things. And I think when we talked about that great reset of the Saturn conjuncting Neptune, where we talked about that, with that blood moon, that was a perfect time to kind of use that energy to really bring into reality, now birthing literally what you want for this year. Because even though we have the Gregorian and the Lunar New Year for manifestation purposes, this is where the real work begins, where you can start to really see, hence the spring, right? The seed that you planted. And during those times, you can start seeing them now starting to come off the ground, and you can start to see glimpses of what your manifestation future could look like. So this is really a pivotal time, and it's so reflective of the markets, right? Like I said at the beginning of our stream, where there was so much FUD going on, and everyone talking about going lower. And not to say that we're not going to visit those levels, it's just that when you are so busy looking at those negatives, you're missing what's right in front of you, $4,000 or $5,000 moves that could make people money in the meantime, while you wait for the final retrace or the final leg or the final pivot or whatever it is. So it's important to keep in mind those future events, but also stay grounded and clear as to what's in front of you for the month or for the week, right? And making decisions based on what you have now, which is very much, in the theme of now, with this week being very pivotal, and the next one for what we're going to see moving into April. But yeah, so that being said, that's kind of like the overview without getting into too much detail about what we're going to be seeing in the upcoming days. Let's see if I have anything else I want to share before we move into the actual cards for the week. No, I think that's it. I mean, I do have some sector analysis that I would like to share towards the end, and we can do that after you get into your cards for the week. So
Cool. Yeah, that sounds good. Wow, thank you, Dee. I mean, I mean, there's just so much going on, but I mean, what we've been talking about before is, yeah, it's windows of opportunity is like kind of what we're talking about here. It's like,
correct.
a lot of people learn to trade the y-axis. We're talking about the X, which is really difficult for a lot of people. And so it's like that's what we're talking about here. And this is that window of opportunity, the sign change that Dee is talking about. So yeah, in the cards, yeah, let's look and see what's going on in the cards. Well, there's a reason why we talked about the Queen of Hearts earlier, is because I wanted everyone to get at least somewhat familiar with this card, because the Queen of Hearts is our weekly energy for the week. So just like how there's 52 weeks in the year, you can go all the way down the suits. It's the 12th week, so it will be the Queen of Hearts week. Pretty simple way that you can just follow along the deck in order to just know what kind of energy is going on an overall level for the week.
Yeah, so remind people what the key characteristics that we just discussed that will be sort of the underlining theme or the underlining energy of the week based on her.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, great thing to bring up, because yeah, the Queen of Hearts, so like you said, she's the receptive mother. She's very creative and intuitive, and she's very bubbly. But what's going on underneath the surface? Well, she's insanely driven. She really likes accomplishment. She wants to see things to the end. And if you think about it, it's like when you think about that mother energy, that mother bear energy, it's like, well, yeah, she does want to see things to the end and see accomplishment and completion, maybe for herself and just becoming a mother or something like that. Or maybe it's she wants her kids to be successful. She wants herself to be successful because she's a queen. It's like
Yeah.
she rules, and so it's like she needs like an amount of power in her life. And so the 10 of spades is an insanely powerful card. It sits in the Jupiter Mercury line, so again Mercury is coming up again. But yeah, Jupiter and Mercury very powerful, so we're seeing quick expansion, but also like success and power through work and achievement. So this is an amazing energy to have with us for the week. And also with the Queen of Hearts sitting down here in Neptune, it's like she's a dreamer. And so it's like we have this dream, but we also have like the actual muscle behind it to make it happen as well, which
Hmm.
is yeah, very, very cool. Um, so yeah, on Monday, I added the numerology here down here for the day as well. I know we talked about that in a different stream, but yeah, cool thing to kind of tie in here with the cards as well. Add another layer.
Okay.
But
You talk about
yeah,
the
it,
numerology. Just remind us what that means exactly.
yeah, totally. So what we're doing here is I'm just taking the full date. So 3 plus 1 plus 6 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6 comes to 20, and then we reduce that to two. So
Two.
it's
Okay,
like,
perfect. All right. So it's a
yep.
total
So
sum. Okay.
Yep. So we just have the total sum and then the reduced, because sometimes this 2-digit number can give us a little bit more information, especially if it's like a master number like
Yeah.
33, or
Right.
like
Oh, it totally does.
20s. Yeah, totally.
Totally does.
And 20 is a unique one too. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, our card for Monday is the 7 of diamonds, and we've talked about the 7 of diamonds before. This is the slot machine card. So this is the card of extreme gain or extreme loss. It can be the millionaire's card, but yeah, just like the so-called lucky sevens on a slot machine, it's like the seven is more of a number of a shakeup more than anything. But so when we tie in the diamonds, that's the financial realm, what we value, our resources, our money. So yeah, the slot machine card. And 20 and 2 there as well is a very interesting little yeah, a little scoop to put on top, because this is a very this isn't just like any two, because it has a zero behind it, which zero is in some systems they say that the zero is basically the number of the divine. So essentially it's like a divine partnership in a way, which is also very interesting because the seven, if you lay out all the cards, like from ace to king, the seven sits right in the middle. And it's known as the bridge between the spiritual
Hmm.
and the mundane. And so when we think about that with like the divine partnership, that's a very interesting vibration to throw on top of the 7 of diamonds.
That's really interesting you say that. Because you talk about losing or winning and maybe even both, right? Um,
Yeah.
so kind of like, giving back all the gains that you made or or not winning at all, or winning and running with your life because the seventh, it's both, right? It reminds me of the tarot cards. When I look at all the seven cards, they're both equally good and bad. It could be conflict, like the seven of wands, but it could be, choices that have been given to you to choose, like a lot of choices, right? Which will be like the seven of cups, or working through something to achieve a goal or greatness, which will be the seven of coins. So it's very versatile card. in its outcome. And it's more like driven by the human that is riding the cart. You know what I mean? Um,
Yep.
and so astrologically speaking, it's an interesting placement for this card on Monday because transit wise, there's no seriously major transit going on Monday the 16th. However, there's residual energy from the transits on Sunday, and it's going to be connecting or influxing with the energy that is going to be manifesting on the 17th. So it's sort of a waning of energy from Sunday and waxing energy from Tuesday. So it's an influx. It's almost like where the area where the river flows into the ocean. You have a mix of the salty water with the sweet waters of the river. And so you could get a mix of both, which is very indicative of what I'm seeing for Monday in terms of price action, right? It's like a mix of both. Mostly I would say, so it's gonna, like I said before, it's gonna vary of who is driving the car, right? But I think if you play your cards right, I think, securing gains from this weekend or from Friday's move might be a good idea, right? As we move through, because I think overall, like overarching energy from Monday through Wednesday, it can still be positive energy. We still have more upside to go up until at least the 18th. So even just going with the flows of Monday and maybe even like chilling back a bit and just watching how it unfolds and setting your your sort of, how do you call it, the range for the week with Monday's highs and lows might be a good idea.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. And like you said, with the choice that's being presented with the seven, it's like if you guys remember, I think that was last week we talked about the seven and how it provides that choice when we follow the pips.
Mhm.
So it's like you don't have to make that choice, but then you stay lower. Like if you flip this card to its side, it's like you would stay on the lower level, or you make that choice, or it's something unexpected because it's a seven.
Mhm.
Something happens, or a choice happens, but probably indicative of your prior choices, most likely. And then, um, and then you elevate to the next level. And so, I would say out of all the cards, and yeah, very interesting. We're talking about this. I would say that this is like probably one of the most that I would say you have the most agency over, even though that it is like this unexpected seven. It's like that choice is being presented here, which isn't really presented in a lot of the other pips.
Mhm. Yeah. And with the energy of Sunday, which today's transit is that Mercury conjuncting Mars, right? I like to call it like the villain era, the genius evildoer. And it could be really volatile, sharp moves. So what gains you might gain today might be taken back on Monday. And not to say that there's no continuation to the upside. All that just means is that, they could be having some fake moves during the open again, which has been quite the hallmark of this past week. And we advised of that last week when we said to watch out for that Monday open, that transit will probably manifest several times throughout the week. So that signature, that imprint, that move, was going to be the hallmark for the week. And sure enough, we had that crazy open energy back and forth, those fake moves occur all last week. So just something to keep in mind as well for Monday. So looking, probably that energy tends to wipe out undisciplined traders, and it's the liquidity hunt type of situation. So just something to watch for and to recognize on Monday.
Yep, it likes to shake things up, and we're at eight of diamonds today, which is the power of money. So very emotionally driven, or we are going to have a lot pent up. I'm not looking at a chart right now, so I don't know what we're doing, but like a lot of we have a lot of pent up powerful energy from today. So how that is going to bubble over on Monday with the slot machine card, yeah, definitely very interesting. I would stay nimble. Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
stay nimble tomorrow. Yes.
yeah. So what we got for
So
Tuesday?
so Tuesday we're looking at the six of diamonds. So the six of diamonds is the card of like financial balance and karma. And so sixes, when I first started looking into the cards, the sixes were some of the most like confusing like cards to me, just because it's like they
Yeah.
like embodied so many different things, and then I kind of realized it's like that's what they're supposed to do. And
Hmm.
ultimately it's kind of how I see them manifest in the cards, is like it's, yes, responsibility and nurturing, but like duty, I feel like, is kind of the word, where it's like this like inner calling and motivation that really isn't found in many of the other numbers. And
Hmm.
but it's like it's kind of done in a different way, whereas like an ace is like a trailblazer, and like he wants to get out there and
Wow,
like,
thank you,
and
DM.
it's kind of all about the ace itself, whereas like the six is looking at, just like it kind of curls inward. It's like the six is looking inward but also to everyone else around it, like a big hug. You know what I mean? So that being said, it's like here with the six of diamonds, it's balance. It's balance, it's karmic balance. And so when we apply that to the markets, it's push and pull day, because the six is even. It has both sides. It's also a channel. So it's like things move quickly and smoothly, but also we have that karmic balance aspect where it's like, this is like, to me, it's like these are like the whipsaw chop days. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because
yeah,
it's like
exactly.
everyone gets a piece. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it's a six. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to see it as a card of opportunity because so in the tarot it's the six of coins, and so it sort of gives you it's it's almost like the nostalgia card, but flipped upside down is the regret card. So you are looking at what you could have, should have, would have, which makes a lot of sense because of the week that we just had, where we had upside, where most people were thinking downside. People are probably going to start to FOMO and, try to get in the move when it's really coming to an end. Well, not, let me rephrase that, not coming to an end, but it's going to face a retrace pretty soon where it's going to give people the opportunity to get in, back in, for a few days before we go more downside. But it's like that card where it gives you like it gives you like that look back and that regret, which I, find interesting around this time. But on that day, once again, um we don't have any transits that are like peaking, but we do have that uh Saturn, transiting Saturn, still conjuncting natal moon, which, started in mid-March. So over the weekend, and it's not going to peak until the day of after the 18th, between the 18th and 19th. So it's still going to be um it's a progress. It's still in progress, if that's what I'm trying to say. The move that occurred that started around the 14th, 15th is still in progress, and it won't peak until the 18th. So it's in its waxing phase, so it still has some power and some charge and some drive left. So it's still time that people can take advantage of, whatever upside we still have. They just need to be cautious because now it's getting to the point where, the move is exhausting, and people who may come in too late may get trapped. So just something to watch out for. Monday and Tuesday are still, uh, you know, not fully, like you said, just still choppy.
Yeah, totally. And that six, like you're saying with the tarot card where it can be like regret, it's like another interpretation of the six of diamonds is kind of like I like to say it's like retribution because it can be like if you encounter the six, like for example in like your yearly chart or something like that,
Hmm.
that could be like a balancing of debts or like someone like owed you something or you
Yeah.
owed someone else something or like some and so it's like yeah and so if that is like we said before every card positive negative and balanced well the negative side of that would definitely be regret because it's like oh my god why did I even lend that guy money he's never going to pay me back you know what I mean
Right.
it's like that
Right.
type of energy.
Right. And the symbology of the in the tarot is a wealthy gentleman or noble giving donation or money to people. And so it's kind of like the rebalancing, the giving back. So once again, you gotta use the symbology literally sometimes when it comes to these markets, and that's literally giving back what you from what you got or what you gained, right, over time. So just like I can't emphasize enough about being defensive with your positions on Monday and Tuesday.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're moving through the low diamonds, as you guys can see, and it's just like this is not this is the time where it's like, yeah, there is going to be like kind of back and forth energy here, and especially when it applies to the markets because we're moving through the diamond suit. So it's like, yeah, it's like kind of all focus is like on the markets when we move through this suit.
Yeah, exactly. And what do we got for Wednesday?
Wednesday, we got the five of diamonds. So, like you were saying, a peak. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely a peak. This is a high energy day. Five is
Yeah.
exploration through the five senses. And
Mm-hmm.
now we're in diamonds. So, values, resources, money, exploration through money. Apply that to the markets. Sounds like a very exciting day. you know, yeah,
A
exactly.
take
So,
profit
it's
day.
yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, especially following with that four right behind us. But we also have that 22, that master number here on Wednesday as well, and 22 is known as the master builder. And so the master builder with the exploration of money is that's a great combo. Yeah, especially if you're seeing a peak that day as well. Wednesday could be really fun.
He said really fun. Yeah, and so in tarot, it's the beggar's card is the being left out, and the cold card is the not taking profit card.
That's funny.
Is the round
Maybe
tripping
just a lot
card.
of people left in the dust or the round trip. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I can't say it enough, and then we have on that day we have a new moon. Also, so it wouldn't hurt to take profit on that day. There are a few other peaks left in the month. The 20th, 21st being a turnaround point or a potential. I know a lot of people who are going to be shorting on the 18th. So, the 20th and the 21st, not trying to get ahead of myself, but just because it's related to this card, could be a short squeeze incoming. So, so if you're going to short early on the 18th, just something to be careful with. Me personally, I will still play it defensively with my longs for a couple more days. I would, just take heavy profits off the table on that day. And I can only obviously speak to my strategy, but heavy profit and just kind of watch and play defensively, maybe trail stop loss after that. If you are going to play shorts, early shorts, just be mindful that we are ending the suit at the weekend. Luckily, I do have a high and a peak on the 21st, but given that it's on a Saturday, it might not be as abrupt or as serious, which then we'll leave it for next week. So the short squeeze can be delayed more towards the next week. But I would just still be careful, with that date. Still, yeah, something to watch out for.
Yeah, definitely. Because the five is, violent. You know what I mean? And so
Yep.
it's like it can be violent. Like the five of spades, like traditionally in like old cards, the five of spades, I forgot the quote it would have at the bottom of it, but it said something, it was like only the victor lives or something. It was like very ominous. Like it's just basically like it's war, you know what I mean? Because you're exploring. So it's like you're fighting stability in a way,
Yep.
and so it can be violent.
Yep.
But thankfully, we get some stability on Thursday. So whatever happens on Friday, at least it's like going to kind of or on Wednesday. Sorry, it's at least going to kind of calm down at least on Thursday. Like it's not going to
Hmm.
be as violent. This is definitely a more well, it's a card of stability,
Hmm.
stability in finances and systems. And
Yep.
so yeah, I could see a little bit of a calmer day on Thursday,
Yeah.
even though that typically
Okay.
we see a dump on Thursday. But yeah, um,
Yeah, well, I think
yeah,
it's coming a little earlier on that Wednesday, but the on I do also see bottoming energy on the on Thursday. So whatever we get from the 18th should start to, like you said, come down and start to look more positive, slow down, kind of like what we saw on Saturday from Friday. That's kind of what I'm seeing for Thursday and Friday.
yeah, I
That kind
agree
of
with you
like,
there.
yeah, that kind of like still dripping, but it's going to be all right. We are gonna
Yeah,
like come back and turn around. Yeah, like on Friday, I think it was, I said the move is not over. I think people were assuming that I was speaking literally in that moment, but I was talking about seeing 72, 73 back again in the rest of the week, and that's where we're heading right now. So it's possible that we're gonna see those highs again next week, and just be mindful that we are still at resistance. And so but volatile week ahead for sure, but we
yeah,
want that, we
definitely.
want
Because
that.
yeah, we need some volatility here, and especially yeah, switching suits. This ace on Sunday, this three on Friday, and you were saying you were seeing like kind of that peak energy around Saturday. Well, the three, very optimistic and exploration based. You know what I mean? This is mental exploration, curiosity, and so like you were saying, the move not being done, I feel like we could still see something Friday, especially
Oh
with that 33 day. That's
yeah. Yeah,
crazy. And so,
exactly.
yeah, I feel like
and
we could see
remember
something. Okay,
And
go
remember
ahead.
what I said about like Mercury coming direct on Friday and happening at 3:33
Oh my
p.m.
gosh, yeah.
I think it's p.m. It could be a.m. I can't remember, but it's happening at 3:33. And then you have a day of 33, and then it's happening on 3:20. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, this is crazy. Yeah, Friday definitely a day to watch. Wow, I'm excited for this week. We got so many like interesting days. Like tomorrow's gonna be crazy. Wednesday's some day to watch. Friday's gonna be wild.
It's like, well,
Um,
just be on your toes the
yeah,
whole week. Just make sure you have your analysis, you have your plan A, your plan B, make sure you're executing without emotions, even though it's an underlining emotional week because we have that Queen of Heart, but just gotta, you gotta be a cute, cool cucumber like the diamonds. The diamonds are cool cards. They don't wear their emotions on their sleeves.
yep, yeah, they're the rocks, diamonds come from the earth. And
Yeah.
also it's like they're clear and they see the true value. It's like we can
Mm-hmm.
see through a diamond, and like that's the perception of the diamond and keeps them very, yeah, grounded, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, don't get swept off your feet because yeah, the Queen of Hearts, that's her weakness,
That is her weakness. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
So yeah,
So,
Saturday, two of diamonds, that's partnership. And so yeah, we could just see, a cool off. I mean, it's Saturday. And then Sunday, new beginning with that ace of diamonds. So new beginning of finance. This is the visionary. And so what a perfect setup to lead us into Monday, and we flip into clubs. So that'll be next week.
oh, that'll be fun.
Oh yeah.
Because I know we talked about the elements and everything, but clubs in tarot are fire, they're creation, they're the beginning of things, and you cannot make this stuff up. With us transitioning into the spring equinox, with the clubs, literally growing leaves of a staff, right? Like it's the process of creation. It's the beginning of a new cycle. It's the beginning of a new energy into the markets. It's exciting. It's good stuff. It's I know we have so much negativity going on right now, but it's something to look forward to and to be excited about.
Absolutely. It's the tree of life. It's the tree of knowledge and it's blossoming. It's like, yeah, clubs represent summer. So summer is when we're rocking, And
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
yeah, clubs is yeah, great suit to go into. And remember, we go backwards. So we start off with the king on Monday.
Right, right, exactly. That's exciting. Okay. Well, so if you are all set with the cards, I'm going to just wrap things up with just a few more things astrology related that we
Sure.
can look at. So looking at this 0 point in Aries still being quite important, and in mundane astrology, the zero, it's very indicative of the cardinal signs. So Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, and they're called world points. And that degree is very pivotal and critical in the fact that we had so much energy, literally like the 0 degree is representative of that threshold of the birth canal, of the giving birth, of the start of the new, right? And so it's gonna be affecting everything and triggering everything at a global consciousness level. So it's just very powerful time, and I just encourage everyone to be at their best. Like if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling sad about what is going on in today's world, I encourage everyone to really find ways to stay positive, find ways to turn that energy around because it's like the energy is going to be rippling across the world, the entire world, and our society as a conscious being, right? And so, whatever little bit of goodness you can put out there is going to come a long way. Okay. It's also, it's activating that solar fire, so to speak, that we have as human beings, and dissipating some of that confusion, some of the delay that we experience during Mercury retrograde periods. Also, I've been looking and tracking the Federal Reserve chart and its sensitivity points. I spoke about this last time about the Fed's chart midheaven sitting at that Aries degree, right? And where the sun has been crossing now, and it's a direct hit. So a lot of news and high visibility when it comes to policy. So, staying vigilant with, Fed policy statements, that Fed chair, coming back into play, probably the FOMC meetings and such. And so just bringing a lot of, newsworthy events and things. So paying attention to that. In terms of the sector analysis, I've been also tracking that for the technology with now Mercury coming direct and Jupiter in Pisces is sort of the launch window. So a lot of tech assets are going to be favored in this next up opening window in terms of cryptocurrency, with the new moon. Any buys around this time are going to probably do well between any buys between now and mid April are probably going to do well in the upcoming months. The banking also still having high attention and high visibility. Obviously, as we all know, the defense sector is also, in a new bullish cycle, as well as a lot of the energy. It's in a seasonal shift that just, recently occurred. And so, anything Mars ruling charts, asset charts that are Mars ruling, and such as related to like oil, gas, which of course, as we know, it's been hot, and still metals are still gonna be playing pretty hot. So yeah, it's gonna be a shift across the board. And Ty, do you have anything to close us off with?
I think just based off the what you said there at the beginning of just like, we're moving this world's moving fast. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? There's a lot going on. And I know we're talking about the markets here a lot, but it's like, these cards affect us and the Queen of Hearts is affecting us here,
In a
all of us,
personal level.
the markets, the people, all of us. And so yeah, I guess that would be my takeaway for everybody here today.
Yeah,
It's just like, yeah, we
exactly.
talked about how this could apply to the markets, but yeah, the Queen of Hearts is with you this week. And she's a motherly compassion. She's super creative, she's
Mm-hmm.
bubbly. It's like bring some of that energy with you this week. Bring some of this like driven accomplishment based, like this is an unstoppable card, this is unstoppable, and like you bring that with you this week. And also it's like guide others, teach others this week, reach out to people this week.
Yeah,
Nine is the number of universalism. It's like the queen's only powerful because she's loving and she wants people around her. And
yeah.
so I think that's what's just really important. We have
Yes.
a
As,
it's
as
crazy times.
Yeah,
Like yeah.
as cliche as it may sound, the Queen of Hearts is all heart, all love, and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that is what supersedes all things. It's it's love. That's what we seek. That's what moves the world. Desire, love, the things we want, the things we love, and so I'll leave you all with that. Ty, once again, thank you so much for coming and stepping in and sharing with us such amazing, incredible knowledge. Want to thank everyone who joined us today and those that are going to check out the restream. I can't thank them enough for their support and their love. And, feel free, everyone, to comment and share. Feel free to follow Ty and myself, both here and on YouTube. So, of course, the YouTube restream will still be there with the captions. We'll be posting that in a few minutes after this is done. And that's all we got for you guys this week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks everybody, thank you so much. Thanks, D.
See you next week and stay goated.